So I'm going to start this video off by simply saying that this video may be offensive to you, and it may be one of those videos where you'll stick around and dip out after a minute or two, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do, or attempt to do, is I'm going to break down exactly what DEI is: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm going to explain and expose that it is merely a smokescreen. It's not real. It's not. What DEI originally was, or conceptually what it was, when I look back to affirmative action for Black people, skin color, being discriminated, especially during the civil rights movement, affirmative action was created to give my fellow brothers and sisters the ability to make a living and to be hired, not based on, oh, well, you're Black, we're not going to hire you. We're going to give you a fair shake based on your skills, irregardless of your color and all that. That's what I understood affirmative action to be, which is a variant conceptually to DEI. But the way DEI is today, like in today's times, it's a smokescreen for the alphabet community, the woke mob. It is. Let me paint a picture of this, because I'm really going to go in on this video. When I hear these people say we want games to be inclusive, here's something that a lot of YouTubers are not saying, or maybe they don't think to say it. If we were not in inclusive times, people like this Corinne Bush, this tranny, this man, would not even be in the position he is in to even be a lead director to create Dragon Age Veilguard. You would not have people like a Leslie Headland to essentially further ruin the franchise of Star Wars. You would not have these people in the positions they are if we truly were not inclusive and being diverse. That right there is a fact. My argument to the alphabet community, to the woke mob, my argument is simply this: why don't you people create original content for your own audience, for your own demographics? That is my question to anyone that is watching this that is sympathetic to those sects of people, or maybe you are a representative of that people. Why don't you guys create your own? See, let me give you an analogy. I was thinking this, and I said, you know what, this will be a good point to make in a video. This is like if you invite someone to your home and they're different than you, right? But you're like, you know what, fine, I'm having a get together, come on over, you know, we're playing, I don't know, Tekken 8, or we're playing new Call of Duty. And the person's gay, right? So we're gonna bring you over. You cool, right? We know you. So we're allowing you to come into our home, our space. Now, when you arrive, instead of enjoying the game like we all are, you then proceed to say, well, now that I'm here, I don't like how things are being done here. So I'm going to do it this way. And now the rest of you, if you don't abide by my wishes, you are a homophobe. That's essentially what's happening here. See, the issue wasn't the inclusion because I invited you to my home. It's now that you're in my home, now you want to do things your way. That's what I'm seeing in the gaming industry now. So that's why I say the DEI, the inclusion, it's BS. It's BS. You ever watch Star Trek? I'm a big sci-fi guy, right? You had a faction called the BORG. And the BORG would go throughout the galaxy, planet to planet, and assimilate that planet's resources and their people. And they would say this line is, they would say the line of, resistance is futile. That's what they would say. Go and look it up. If you don't even know about Star Trek, the BORG, it was a great faction in the franchise. And that's what I see the woke mob, the alphabet community, and this DEI, the usage of DEI today. I look at them as the BORG. They go from franchise to franchise, assimilating the franchise and trying to turn it into something that they want, and it gets destroyed. It gets ruined every single time. And then once that franchise is done and dead, they move on to the next franchise. Be it a show, a game, a comic, you name it. They have completely eviscerated Star Wars. I don't even think Star Wars is dead. It's dead. Now we look at the games, right? We look at Dragon Age Veilguard. You got a tranny that's leading the charge for that game. You look at the failure of Concord, a $400 million loss on that game from Sony. And there are reports I've heard that Sony was originally positioning that game to be a kind of a system seller for their upcoming PlayStation 5 Pro. That's what they were hoping. Failure. 400 million. Done. You see, this is not about, it never was about inclusion. Like I said, these people are already in Hollywood. They're in politics. They're in comics. They're already included. So that's why I say this DEI, it's a lie. What they really want is they want to infect, assimilate, change from the inside out an already established IP, whether that's Star Wars, whatever it is. They're not coming in and enjoying what the franchise is. They're not. Let's take Star Wars, for instance. Star Wars is an overwhelmingly hetero audience. Assassin's Creed. Dragon Age. Now, does that mean that there are not gay and trannies that may have watched these franchises as they grew up? I'm sure they are. However, those franchises became popular for a reason. They became popular because they told viable stories. They became popular because it was not mired in identity politics. So now you have some of these people that would say, you know what? I want to see myself. I want to see myself. Here's an idea. Then why don't you just create your own franchise and you can see yourself? Why does it have to be at the expense of something that is already established? That is my question. And maybe it is that very question that is causing my prior video that I'll highlight on the screen when I'm done recording and edit this, that video is getting the most dislikes out of all the videos I've done so far in my short YouTube channel journey so far. It's not it can't be a coincidence. So again, I don't hate gays. I don't hate the trannies. I don't hate their movement. But what I am simply saying, and what I've always been saying, is why don't you use some originality and create content for your own audience? You want to see yourself in Star Wars? Well, I'm sorry. Star Wars got popular without you. Why don't you be the new gay George Lucas? Why don't you create the Gayverse, Gay Wars, whatever you want to title it, it will be yours. So that way, you can stand on your own 2 feet. Because the fact of the matter is this: companies like Ubisoft, varying production crews, production companies in Hollywood, other video game companies like BioWare, all these companies, I am willing to wager my existence that they would love to dedicate a portion, however much money, to those demographics, right? To the trannies and the alphabet and the woke and all those people, and said, here, we're going to give you X amount of millions of dollars for you guys to create something for your own audience. They will do that. In fact, last I remember, I believe I think Disney allocated $180 million for Star Wars Acolyte, right? So it's just, I just feel like common sense just fails, you know. But then this also brings me to something that I don't know if many people are aware of. This whole DEI, which is a subsidiary of ESG, which is also being heavily backed by 3 major companies. I won't say their names, but let's just say they're financial holding companies. Some of you might be aware of their names. And they created ESG. And as a subsidiary, you have DEI under it. So think of ESG as like this big umbrella, and then you got DEI. And what I learned was that companies have what is called an ESG score. And a certain amount of, depending on how many, what the score is, will determine what amount of money is allocated to that company to do X, Y, and Z. I later found out that a lot of these big companies do not use their own, or they don't use a large portion of their own money to create certain projects, which is interesting to me because it may explain why companies like Disney continue to create flop after flop after flop of shows and movies. Because if it was any other company, even as big as Disney is, they would have made a course correction by now. I'm pretty sure they're not blind. They are well aware that the community, the real community, is like, look, this is not for me. I didn't sign up for this. This is not the Star Wars I like as a consumer. You are pandering to a very small subset of group of people, and it's failing. These shows are costing so many hundreds of millions of dollars to make, but yet and still, while they are making X amount of millions in the box office, but by their standards, Disney standards, it's considered a flop because they probably even break even. So I have a feeling that the reason why companies like Disney, BioWare or EA and Ubisoft continue to push the message of modern audience is because they're not really utilizing their own money. They're utilizing a lot of financial assets that they are being gifted from other larger companies because they are ticking those DEI boxes and they're having probably a very high ESG score. That is something that I don't see a lot of YouTube. I see very few, but mostly from the finance aspect, because this is not something a lot of gamers are aware of. It's out there, and I've seen that information. And if a company has a very low ESG score, like they're not, you know, ticking those boxes, those DEI boxes, they are not getting that financial support from those larger companies. And I think that is probably what is happening here. So it really begs the question, if a company is taking a stance against DEI and they are making games that are not pushing this message, this ideological politics, they are essentially having to fund the project largely on their own. When I see a game, I haven't played it yet, Space Marine 2. I believe it's for PlayStation and Xbox. Third person shooter. It reminds me of almost like Gears of War. That game has been well received, been doing very well. Black Myth Wukong, breaking records. It is not subject to that DEI. The creators said, you know what, we're not doing that. I think another game called Astro Boy or Astro Bot or something like that. That game has been pretty much a pretty good success to my understanding. And it's going to show that when you are making games that are not pandering to a particular demographic, you're just making a quality game that is fun, that is not mired in identity politics, the game is going to sell. It has sold. We have seen the examples. But when you are pushing your identity politics clearly, like Dragon Age Veilguard is, and other games, they are suffering and they are subject to flop. So I can go on about this all day. Believe me, maybe I should go do a live stream. If I was a much larger channel, I'd bring a lot of people in. Maybe I should do this as a podcast. But believe me, there is a lot more I have to say on this topic. And maybe I was all over the place, but what I am saying, I feel does have merit. And I think a lot of people need to know this stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about this. I don't know how much editing I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it out there, and I will be back with more content. Subscribe if you want to stay up to date. I'm a very small channel. I have a lot to say. Some of it may be controversial, may ruffle some people's feathers, but that's fine. I'm staying true to myself, true to my vision, and I urge you to do the same. I 100% support healthy debate, and this is where we can do that in my comments section. If you want to dislike my video, that's fine. But I would also like to know why you're disliking it. Are you that easily offended? Did I say something that rubbed you the wrong way? Leave it in the comments. Let's discuss it. Because I'm here to share my vision, to share my perspectives, and to also bring light to these particular topics that people, I don't think they have the full story on. They don't have the full vision. So anyway, take care. Peace.